Hi, I'm Emily Steer. I'm an arts journalist and trainee psychotherapist, and I'm here today at JD Malat speaking to Phoebe Leech about her exhibition, Hidden Boys, Open Blue. Thank you for speaking to me today.
That's all right.
I'd love to start talking about masculinity, which is obviously a massive theme that is woven through these works. And I think it's something that sort of is very present in art world conversations, but we maybe don't often see tackled really kind of head on in artwork.
Yeah.
And I wondered if you could tell me sort of where the subject of masculinity comes from for you, from a kind of personal and family perspective as well in these works.
So I'm close with my brother, and when we were kids, our parents are divorced, so we stayed at our mum's house and then went up north to our dad's house, and we had a really difficult upbringing in my dad's department. Like, he was quite a toxic man and very dominating, and I think because I'm such a creative person, I think creative people tend to be like very, observational, like we can really, and perceptive. So I think I was just so drawn to the way he responded to my dad's trauma and how different it was to me. In a sense, it was kind of like I kind of knew what was going on. I was like, this is all a bit weird and this is not right. This is not how a parent should be treating a child. And the way he sort of coped was not coping.
Yeah.
Well, he would cope, but it would be in a very indirect way with his emotions. So he would just suppress them, and he would just bury everything down and just pretend that everything's okay and everything's normal and we'll just get through this sort of thing. And seeing that and watching that and seeing such an innocent boy, because his nature was very soft, and then just to sort of see that become less and less over the years due to, like, on the surface trying to show that you're not fazed by this sort of thing and that you're strong and all those things that masculinity represents as you grow older. Yeah, so that's kind of where the whole masculinity sort of came into interest for me. I was watching that.
And I think it's really interesting looking at the works in your show that, we're talking about sort of masculinity and I suppose how dangerous it can be, but also through the works, it's actually the innocence that we see. So we're kind of seeing this moment before an impact has happened in some way, where the boys that you have painted look very kind of soft, like there's this kind of rosy cheeked look. A lot of them seem kind of quite happily lost in their own worlds. So I think there is also this sense of like almost a grief or, for something that might become lost as well.
Because there's that, when you're a kid, all these things are so complex that you just sort of throw yourself into the joy of things, and you hold on to that. And I think you hold on to it so much when you grow up and when you're an adult. That's the thing that sort of keeps you alive. That's the thing that sort of keeps that spark going. Because if not, then you end up just holding on to a lot of grief and pain, and which is great because it fuels a lot of what I do. It's sort of showing that other side as well. There's a duality in one existence, isn't there? There's the sort of pain and suffering and the not understanding oneself, and then on the other side there's the feeling free, and there's the feeling of I just want to exist how I want to exist. So there is those two things sort of in one sort of unity.
And I'm really interested in your position in the work as well, because as the viewer, we are observing, often, I think there's only one work where one of the boys is looking very directly at us, and in the others, we're often looking at someone who doesn't know they're being looked at. And we've spoken before, I suppose, about this dual position that's happening for you, where as the artist, you're almost taking a step back and observing, but then also growing up, you've had an experience of observing trauma happen to another person. And I think a lot of guilt can come from that, and a feeling of kind of helplessness. And I wonder, when you're making the works, when you're looking at the work, sort of how those two positions come together for you?
They sort of join. I think the act of painting is a sense therapeutic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you're so immersed into it. You cannot detach yourself. You know, you have to be present, and your emotions are so present, and they're heightened because you're looking into things, and you're unpicking things further through the act of painting. Literally, because the way I work, you know, I make up the concepts, but then when I paint them, it's like getting a microscope.
Yeah.
But what I paint is so personal. It's like looking at a microscope in mine and my brother's life. And so I think through this act of painting, I've become more aware of him and his struggles and mine and my struggles. And I think they sort of interlock, and the painting sort of represents one thing. At the end, it's like, that's kind of how art develops, doesn't it? It's sort of, you have an idea, or you have something small or something non-tangible yet, and then you go through a series of processes, and then near the end it sort of encapsulates everything, doesn't it? So I think near the end, and especially when I'm sort of surrounded by all the work, I sort of have more of an understanding of what I was interested in and what I was observing.
How is the experience for both of you as adults looking at the work, do you think? So for your brother kind of coming in and seeing these works as well, do you feel that does sort of open something up for the two of you?
I think more me. My brother's quite a funny character. He's sort of like, he's quite neutral. I think he's sort of, it's such a hard thing. And when you're an adult, you're still dealing with it as well. So I think what was so lovely is that he was really drawn to the things that were really kind of funny and innocent. So like all the kids' drawings and stuff. I think that was what he really appreciated, but in a jokey way, like, oh, you know, you're making work out of my silly drawings and stuff. Like, it wasn't like, I think he liked it in that sense. Because even though I deal with very dark subject matters, I coat everything because I feel personally everything in life is coated, and masculinity is coated, and we're all concealing things and we're all hiding. So, you know, a lot of that is shown in the work. You know, that's just what I do.
And I think coming to see this exhibition and not knowing anything about it, the first impression probably would be these really kind of bright,
nice,
quite happy paintings. And then I think you notice these ruptures, which kind of happen in the paint. And it's often in these small sections. So obviously in this work here, we've got this sort of little bit where there's kind of details bursting through. And they kind of feel a little bit more difficult to grasp than the main figures in the work. But it feels like there's a real parallel between the sort of psychological experience of trying to hold stuff in and hold stuff together, and as you grow up just kind of going, well, that was my childhood and I'm going to move on. But then we do see it kind of bursting through in different ways.
And this one is very different to quite a lot of the others. You know, I have sort of two themes going on, where I've got the more portraiture heavy paintings, and then I have the more sort of abstract-y, you know, more digitalized paintings that I have. The ones that are less obvious I'm more drawn to. I think it's because I like how unclear it is, but also it's clear enough, it gives enough for someone to draw their own story from it. You know, it's not, I just don't think painting is working if it's telling you what to see. You know, if it's telling you how to feel, and it's telling you what's in this painting. You know, I feel that you want everyone to sort of be able to get a connection with whatever you're saying, you know, and they can interpret it. And that's, I think, why I love the less obvious ones. And also because trauma and memory, as you grow up, it changes sometimes. You know, like you obviously know, like in therapy and stuff, there's disassociation, you know, as a way of coping. You completely change a memory, or you completely change your childhood experience as a coping mechanism. And I think in a sense we all kind of do that, which is a lot of why the child element is in there, because it's a coping mechanism, isn't it? It's like, oh, we'll hold on to that because it makes us feel safe. And that's maybe, I don't know, but when I do that, when I work and I do that sort of playful technique, maybe that is me sort of making myself feel safe. There could be so many.
And I think also, I mean, the way that we often remember traumatic memories can be as these sort of flashes almost, where you might have an incredibly clear image of 1 second of something that happened, but you don't necessarily remember what was before or after. And it feels in your works when there are these sort of ruptures or images coming through, that you're almost giving the viewer that clue. But I think there's also like a frustration there as well, because there is this very clear material and then there's this sort of foggier material. And again, I think that really mirrors the experience of sort of moving towards something that feels difficult, feeling scared and pulling back. It does sometimes just feel more difficult to look at head on. So it is like there's these two realms in the work, I suppose. The one that's very inviting and easy and often that dominates the majority of the work, and then these little windows into something difficult, where the viewer might feel like, oh, I don't need to engage with that, or it's too hard, or they might really try and understand it, but it's unclear. It feels like there is a lot going on that really captures the emotional experience of trying to remember.
The other thing is as well, like when I went to Cuba and I took pictures of these boys, I think again you're taking that observational experience, you're taking it one step further, because you're looking at someone that you don't know, and then you're drawing your own experience and your own feelings on some you sort of incorporate them into someone that you, a complete stranger. And with like Havana Crest and Terrific T Saber and Hotel Dynal, the ones of the boys, you know, from Cuba, it sort of sparks my curiosity, because it makes me think, oh, I wonder how they are feeling. And what I got when I went to Cuba was more freedom and more playfulness that I think was very different to my brother, which is why, again, there's another sort of story going on where there's this sort of exotic, rich colors that you get in Cuba. And, you know, that is such a different environment to what I'm used to and what I grew up with, especially if you think of the complete opposite would be Yorkshire, which is where I was born. Think of grey and dreariness, but which is hilarious. Like when I look around, to have quite a dark subject matter or to be fed by trauma, everything is so bright, so rich and so colourful, which is, I think it must be that like desire to have a sense of escapism, and that's, I think, where it's represented in the work. There's that escapism bursting through, and that's what I got from Cuba, which was so different.
And could you tell me a bit about the process of that? Because you didn't sort of photograph these boys specifically with this body of work in mind, like they're older photographs from a trip that you took to Cuba. And when you were photographing them, I suppose, how were you drawn to certain people to photograph? And then what made you want to return to them in this body of work?
I think specifically in Havana Crest, the young boy with this sort of white tank top. There was a subtle aggression, and it kind of made me think of like, that like young boys wanting to be tough, like wanting to be a bit older than they are.
And we project so much onto the white tank top as well. It is.
It's such a
loaded piece of men's clothing.
It's such a symbolic piece of clothing that you would assume that, maybe a boy, even in poverty, you would think of the military, or you think of like fighting or sport. You think of all those things that that toughness that we sort of class as masculinity. So I think I was drawn to his outfit and his mannerisms because he was kind of the top boy of the group.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why I was drawn to him, and I've expressed him in such a soft, innocent, very vulnerable, almost vulnerable pain, like in his expression, which is completely the opposite of the way he was portraying himself in a sense. So again, there's that thing that's on the surface, and then there's the existence underneath. And I'm expressing those two things together.
And you're almost creating a double mask, because the way that you've painted his face looks like a mask as well. But then he's perhaps masking with this kind of masculine, you know, presentation that he's giving. So it feels like there's all these layers of kind of where's the boy within that, or where's the person within that as well.
That's exactly why I kind of put the white on his face. And also there's this, when you look at Havana Crest, there is a sort of feeling of makeup, say drag makeup or stage makeup. You're almost covering your identity, but you're also putting on something, and you're changing yourself to exist as someone different. And I think what I'm interested in is if that person's okay with that as well, you know.
And we've spoken a bit about the blue skies, but this colour blue is incredibly dominant in all of the works. And when we've spoken before, you said that you're sort of naturally drawn to quite like dark, grimy colours, which again, I think are what we see coming through in these
it's not
slices, but that is not that.
No.
And I wonder sort of what your approach to colour is in the studio. Like, are you quite instinctive when you're working?
Oh my God, colour is so, it's like crucial, you know. I work so meticulously that when it comes to creating my palettes and, you know, creating the right tone of blue or whatever color it is, I've used the eyedropper tool on my laptop or on Photoshop, and then I actually make like a digital palette. So I have like little squares, and I eyedrop from the image to get the exact color, and then I replicate that color in paint. It takes me like a good solid chunk of time to actually mix my paints, because the color is so important. What is so weird is always, even when I was a kid, I thought the artwork I would make would always be, I'm like, wow, I've got such a dark childhood, and I'm so interested in dark things. My work's going to be dark. And it's not, which is so funny. You know, the color is, I just think, is such an important thing. And the blue is such an important thing, because, you know, there's the sense of space in the painting that I think is needed. That does take me quite a long time to get it right, even if it's the sense of making something seem more warm or more cold. So colour is just, I think I would say it's the number one most important thing in my practice, is getting the colour right. And that can take a long time.
And I think, again, this touches on, I suppose, more like cultural cliches that we might have around how someone with trauma is going to present in the world as well. That actually a lot of people do end up presenting in this like super kind of positive, happy, bright way, because either that's how you've learned to survive, or you feel like what's actually going on inside is too much for people, so I sort of have to mask. And again, it feels like that's really functioning in the paintings, where they're sort of drawing people in, you know, with these really quite appealing, optimistic aesthetics, but then there is a lot going on underneath them as well. And I suppose it puts the viewer in a position of how much work do they want to do to engage with that as well? Which again, I think is a mirror sometimes of how we deal with people in the world. It's like, are you going to sort of take this at face value and just go, oh, well, this person's fine then, and I don't need to deal with what's going on inside? Or is there then sort of an effort to actually find out, you know, what might be happening under the surface?
If anything, when you're, you know, out and about, or you see people and you see people that are presenting themselves as coping or showing that there is absolutely no trauma going on underneath, you're drawn to that more because you think that person is trying to cover up something, which is if I could put it in a nutshell, that's exactly what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
And I think from this process and this whole exploration, that is what I'll continue to do, because I think that is definitely what I'm interested in, is the concealment. That, you know, that as a theme in itself is so strong, and you see it everywhere, don't you? I mean, I see it all the time, and you observe, and sometimes you see it in yourself, or like with my brother, I see it in people that I love. It's quite scary sometimes, because you're like, oh God, what's going on?
And again, it's such an aspect of masculinity as well, of kind of don't share vulnerability.
Yeah, it's the shell.
Put on a brave face, put on a shell. Yeah, it is really part of that experience, I think, for a lot of men, of just deal with it, basically, rather than kind of delving into it. From your perspective, has kind of making the works helped you think things through? Do you feel that sort of as you're painting, your own childhood experiences and your experiences with your brother do evolve? Yeah,
I think so. I think because I'm the person, looking at it and unpicking it is probably more so for me. Again, I'm sort of still observing my brother. Yeah. And, I think I'll use him as a muse, throughout my work to inspire me. But I think after this process, I've sort of understood, there's a lot more inside of me that I want to explore further. Can I peel it back even further? Can I show, more stuff that I want to explore? That I think for me this is sort of like a corridor, and I'm leading towards a hall, and the hall will be, I don't know when I'll get there, but I still think there's room to dig deeper in my own personal life and my own experiences. Sometimes it can become very linear if you just focus on that. I think I'm interested in speaking to more people and getting interest out of different subjects. And, that could be my brother, or, that could be a close friend. I'm not sure yet. But to get, something you're satisfied with, you need to look at all angles, don't you?
And it does really feel like the work is functioning on two levels as well. Like, there is obviously the really personal, and, you talk openly about how that feeds in. Yeah. But also your work talks about a massive subject of masculinity, which so many people will relate to in different ways, and will bring their own experiences of childhood to as well. Yeah. So it feels like it's not just about the personal, it is also really about a massive kind of structure that's
universal
that's
pain and universal concealment.
Have you noticed as sort of how people do respond to these works since the show's been open? Like, has it brought up anything unexpected?
I think so. I think people are so drawn to the way I present the face. I think because a lot of people associate someone's face with identity. You would, I guess, clothes are there to cover up a lot of things. And I think a lot of people are drawn to the way I present the face because I don't present it in a very straightforward way. I layer over it and I distort it and I disrupt it, which from, all these paintings, I feel like I could even take that even further to the point where, you're really distorting and, taking things out of context. And I think also it's like people are sort of interested in the imperfect. Everything nowadays is supposed to be perfect, and we've got AI and we've got social media. Everything is represented as glossed over. And I think having stuff that isn't perfect and having things that you feel shouldn't be there but are there is interesting. And I think people probably gravitate towards that because of the sort of digital age that we live in. I didn't think I'd get that response that strong on my portraiture. I struggle with portraiture. It's so hard. It is so hard. There's so much pressure because you're like, oh my God, I've got to capture so much in one face. And to get that response from portraiture is interesting.
And it does feel like you capture something very ambiguous in the faces as well. So within the same work, I sort of find myself thinking, is this boy sad? Are they sort of happy and lost in a moment by themselves?
Yeah.
Are they innocent? Is there sort of something that we don't know that's happening?
It's that sort of grey area, isn't it?
Yes. And then with the one boy that is looking straight at us, I sort of find that work quite confronting, but then it makes me question why I find it confronting as well. It's like, am I seeing this kind of cusp of masculinity that's starting to, emerge? Yes. And I know last time we spoke, we were talking about, I suppose, what you want people to be left with from this show. And we really talked about this cusp where it could go both ways. So sort of this cusp of boyhood before there's been a massive influence by kind of paternal figures or by the culture.
Yeah.
And almost like there's a hope for where it could go, but then there's also this quite scary potential for where it might go as well. And I wonder if you could say a bit about that.
There's no like sure thing. Each person's different and could go down one path and it could take you down somewhere bad, or it could take you down somewhere different. I think I like to represent that even though these boys are young, some of them are a bit older, like in Terrific T. Saber, he's an older boy, but you're always going to have that feeling and that struggle, and it doesn't change when you become an adult. It stays there. You can embrace it or you can let it take over your whole entire soul, but I think it's there for a reason, and putting it there and putting it out there and showing it is a strength as well as it is a hindrance, and it will just continue, and that's okay. There's that whole thing of it's okay to not be okay, and representing that and showing that to the world is important, and I think it will just continue, definitely.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you very much.